Chairman Wheeler, 26 of us sent you a letter July 11th. And it was led by Senator Manchin and by this senator regarding the build-out of rural broadband and the mobility fund. July 11, 26 of us on a bipartisan basis signed that. So thank you, Senator Manchin, for helping with that, and thank you all who signed it. We got an answer yesterday. And I would just say, Mr. Chairman, it's disappointing to me that we have to have a hearing to get a letter back on something that over a quarter of this body asked about. And basically the response was, we're looking into it. We hope to get back to you by the first of the year. No decisions have been made on how best to target the Mobility Fund Phase 2 support, but Commission staff is continuing to process reviewing the record. You know, I appreciate the fact that apparently this hearing being scheduled today persuaded you to write a letter to us dated yesterday. Can you give us any specific steps beyond what you said in the letter, or are you unable to do that, about how the Commission might be expanding broadband into the rural community?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, let me be specific in that regard. I think in two areas. The first thing that we have to know is, where is there not coverage?
We pretty much know that.
The record available on that, with all due respect, sir, has not been good because of the manner in which the Commission collected the data. First way that we did that was the National Broadband Plan, in which we relied on the states to provide information, and it wasn't very good information. So then we went out and we hired a third party to collect information on a census block basis. Gee, that's pretty small, getting down to a small area. But it wasn't granular enough because, okay, well, there's coverage in this census block, but it could be on the left side of the census block, but not the right side of the census block. So it was insufficient information. It is my hope that by the end of this month, we will have the analysis of the new Form 477 that we have required the carriers to provide with us for the first time. So we put a new third bite at the apple. Let's get the carriers to give us specific information with responsibility for that data, and then let's put that into what is called a shape file. And that means let's see it in this area and show where there's coverage here, there's not coverage here, specifically, and not just the generalities. We expect to have that information by, hopefully, the end of this month. So that's kind of step one. We will have the information on which to make a decision. Step two, then, is how are we going to fund that? I am hopeful that, that by the end of this year, we will have moved a broadband mobility fund revision, and it's going to have to make some really tough decisions because there are recipients of our funds today who are serving areas where there is already coverage. And the question we're going to have to decide is whether we should be funding only those areas where there is not coverage, where we now have this very granular information? And if that's the case, how do you be fair to those who have been continuing to, who have been receiving universal service funding in competitive situations, to give them some kind of a glide path? That's the challenge we're working on right now.
Well, let me say, your answer is certainly more comprehensive today than it was yesterday, and I hope you can move quickly on that. Let me just say, I've got to ask a question about set-top boxes, and the answer from Chairman Wheeler was long and extensive. Mr. Pye, the Chairman Wheeler's talking points say this: the proposed final rules will allow consumers to access their pay TV content via free apps on a variety of devices, so they no longer have to pay monthly rental fees. I think Mr. O'Reilly said that an app-centric approach was what he wanted. Enable integrated search and protect content and privacy. Is at least that much of his talking points accurate? And are there going to be more or fewer set-top boxes if this proposal by Chairman Wheeler goes forward?
Thanks for the question, Senator. I wish I could say it were, but I don't think it is. And I think the last point of that, for example, is critical. The protection of content is something that I think a lot of people have focused on. And again, it underscores the importance of making this public so people can judge for themselves. Don't rely on our word about it. The proposal on the table would interject the FCC into two different relationships: the MVPD programmer relationship, in terms of regulating the terms that they would be allowed to agree with, and the relationship between those two and the third-party device manufacturers in terms of the standard licensing. So with respect to the standard licensing agreement, the FCC says, well, the Media Bureau could second-guess any consensus that the MVPDs and programmers might come to in terms of what should be in that agreement. And if they don't reach a consensus at all, the FCC itself will directly write the standard licensing agreement. And so I think, unfortunately, the combination of those two provisions makes it highly unlikely, I think, that content would be adequately protected in the view of all stakeholders.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Wicker. Senator Cantwell.